class, Dr. Doug Brown here, checking in on Wednesday. I hope you've had a fantastic week by the looks of your discussion post and your papers. You certainly are moving forward, doing a good job, excellent job. We're, at the midpoint of our course. It's about over. Thanksgiving to be here soon, and Christmas is right after that. So class will be over here pretty soon. I will tell you that I've enjoyed working with each one of you. You've given it your all, 110% to share great announcements or to great discussions, and also to really engage one another, engage your peers, and share your thoughts. This class is interesting. It's difficult in 8 weeks to put as much into it as I'd like to. I could just wear y'all out with the information. And I know I was looking back at the introductions this week, and there's so much more I want to give, but I don't want to give too much. That's the challenge of an 8-week class, is I don't want to just overwhelm you and throw information at you, and then at the end of the 8 weeks you're just worn down. So that's why it sort of seems slow for you. For many of you, it may feel a little slow. You may feel like you're not getting as much information as you'd like to, and that's why. And so I apologize for that, but that's one of the goals, is to really just give you that basic information and then build upon that baseline so that we don't overwhelm you. We could go so far and in depth with the information. We could get into cell structure. There's a lot of things that we could do with the course. But I really just wanted you to think about those factors that influence our daily lives and not get overwhelmed. I keep using that, but I really don't want you to get overwhelmed. I want you just to go with it. You'll have an opportunity to learn some more information on public health later on. So just hang with me. Those of you that may feel as if it's going a little bit too slow, and it's you feel like the cup is half full. Well, really, or the cup is half empty. Really, the cup is half full, and just know that I don't want to overwhelm you. And I didn't want, in developing the course, I didn't develop the course, but in developing and teaching the course, we certainly didn't want to give you so much work that you didn't enjoy it, and that you didn't get the information that you needed. And like I said, you were sort of exacerbated every week, and we didn't want that. So just hang with me, and we'll keep going. Last week, our discussion, I really enjoyed last week. I hope you did as well. The assignment that we had on epidemiology, tracking the foodborne outbreaks and the illnesses. I think that was a good exercise. I hope it was a good exercise to really help you understand that process and sort of see what goes on behind the scenes. And I looked up the state of Massachusetts. I realized not everybody in the class is from Massachusetts, I'm not, but I looked at some of the different states to try to see what happens, and it's sort of about the same. There's a few changes, but a member of the county or state health department will go out and inspect those restaurants and places that they handle food, make sure that that's all being done, even grocery stores, make sure it's all being handled properly. And then if there's an issue, the sanitarian to go back out and handle those investigations and so forth. If there's a problem, they'll do periodic inspections, and there's just not enough of them. I mean, the health department just don't have enough personnel to really go in and check those establishments the way they need to. It doesn't matter which state it is, limited budgets. There's just not enough of them to go check, and that's one of the problems with those outbreaks. Unless someone calls and reports that there's a problem, or they notice it themselves, then it's just periodic and sort of routine inspections that take place. That's one of the challenges that happens. And you can imagine how many times a day that inspector would get a phone call saying, "Hey, me and the family got sick. We think we have food poisoning. Can you go over to XYZ restaurant?" And this happens, during flu season or at some sort of norovirus, because it mimics that in the flu. So it can just be a challenging undertaking. But again, I believe you got some good experience here. You certainly worked hard to share your thoughts and identify the outbreak, the source, and tell us whether or not you thought it was bioterrorism or just foodborne. So good job. I'm proud of you for doing that. Our discussion this week, I think the discussion this week, probably so far it's Wednesday, is certainly certainly just as involved. We're discussing smallpox, some of the stockpiles, whether or not the stockpiles should be destroyed. And we have those stockpiles, two stockpiles that we know about, and that's the one in Moscow and the CDC in Atlanta. And as you've already mentioned, a lot of you have already jumped in on the discussions. There were some issues there, some questions about some of the stockpile possibly messing. Some vials were found in Atlanta or here in the United States that we didn't know about before. They just, showed up, and that may seem odd in a lab. I suspect that the people that work in the lab, although they have protocols and things they should follow, I would imagine that, it's just like in my office, if I misplaced a book or whatever, to them. And I know those protocols are in place, lab safety protocols, etc. Now, I didn't work in a lab like the CDC, but the system I worked in did have a lab and a research facility that was very, very advanced, bio level 3, rabies, and all sorts of stuff there. So we had to take precautions. Matter of fact, I was invited because I was the healthcare emergency manager. I was invited to take the rabies vaccine, which I declined because I didn't feel I was going to be around the animals that much. Just doing some inspections and helping them with emergency management, homeland security issues. I certainly didn't plan on interacting with the animals, but it could have happened. And some of the workers that do the research certainly do take those vaccines. And same thing with smallpox. I'm sure the world doesn't know this, but if you're going to be working with those different agents, then it's almost a requirement to take the vaccine. And many of you probably are like me. When I was a child, we received the smallpox vaccination. We have a mark on our arm. As I mentioned in the discussion, my wife does not have that. She's younger than I am, and her age group was not required to take the smallpox vaccination or vaccine at that time. And then, a number of years ago, 2003 or so, as a first responder, we were encouraged to do that again, especially those that worked in special operations, hazardous materials, and so forth, because they thought there might be an outbreak. It might be some more bioterrorism that occurred because of smallpox. And so, again, our discussion this week is, do we get rid of the stockpile or do we not? I want you to continue to share your thoughts on that. And I have my own thoughts. You see those in the discussions. In my opinion, I think we should hold on to it. But, I keep books and different things in my office. I'm not a hoarder, but I just think that in this case, it's important, and there's certain things that we should hold on to because of those emergence or reemergence of diseases, especially with climate change. And again, it doesn't matter how you feel about climate change, whether you support it or not. We know something is happening, so we need to take those precautions. So if they're protected, as one of you said in the discussion, if they're protected and are safe and those safety precautions are taking place, then why destroy it? just hold on to it in the event that it's needed later on. So take a look at my announcements if you don't mind. Make sure you're looking at those cool tools that I've shared. Please continue to check your grammar, support your work using citations and references, and make sure your discussion posts and your papers are extended, in depth, clear and concise, following the instructions and the information I posted in announcements. Take a look at the final week and make sure that you're prepared. We're getting close here, and we should make sure that we're ready. We're ready for that final week, final projects, etc. So that's it. I don't want to seem like I'm just rambling, but I did want to check in and tell you how good a job you're doing. You continue to rock, continue to move forward. If there's something I can do for you, let me know. Pick up the phone, call me via FaceTime, send me an email, text me, whatever, and I will do everything I can to possibly help you. In the meantime, have a great week. I'll see you in the discussions. Keep rocking.